With your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 84! Let's go! How are we doing, fellas? This is Junior, that is Nick to my right, and to his right is Vince. How are we doing, fellas?
Who wears 84?
Who?
McGillney.
Latendresse?
McGillney was 89.
89.
Latendresse was
Latendresse
84.
was
Solid.
Jeez, what a Habs fan we have here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I'm drawing blanks on 84.
84 it's not a very popular number, I feel. And then you're going to see like Sergei Bergevin. What was it? Bergeron? Whatever.
Ooh, Nick,
Yeah.
starting off cold.
Yeah, starting off cold. Well, you know what was cold? Just going to go into the intro right away
Go
here.
ahead, Nick.
All right.
You take it.
For this intro, I'm going to talk about a question that was asked during a post-media scrum to Paul Maurice from Michael Russo. And the question was, it was regarding the Panthers being brash during the game, but then afterwards they were being seriously like humble to the reporters, saying how the other team is actually, you know, a pretty good team and it was a very hard-fought series or whatever. And the guy was basically stating, like, isn't that a little bit hypocritical? You know, you guys play a certain way, but you talk a certain way outside of the ice. And Paul Maurice said, well, have you ever shotgunned a beer? Okay. Would you shotgun a beer in the middle of church? That doesn't make you a hypocrite. There's a place and a context for all things. So the Florida Panthers are built from top to bottom to be a brash team, a team that will, every shift means something. Every shift has a purpose. Every shift is to make sure that by game 7, the other team is exhausted and really questioning whether or not they have what it takes to actually beat this team. Even if Florida's losing, they still come out and do the post-whistle scrums. They're still hitting hard, whether it's 5 seconds left in the game or in the middle of the second period, they play the same way from start to finish. And guys, it's just a dog mentality. It's a dog on a bone. Every single player on that team has the same mindset. It's incredible to watch.
It's fascinating, and it's tiresome for the opponent.
It's
And
a winning culture.
It's a winning culture, and what I admired the most, not admired, but what I appreciated the most was they could have, like people like to retaliate by fighting and stuff like that. But how did they retaliate to Aho's dirty hip check to Reinhardt? Kachuk followed him down the ice every chance he got, nudged him, put him down.
He didn't care if
all
he was
within the
penalty.
rules. He didn't get a penalty. But Aho has been off his game from the start. We'll get to it later. But they're the type of team that they annoy you. You're exhausted after playing them, and you can't get anything going.
But doesn't it start from the top, which is Paul Maurice, who's so good with his words? Like,
we can even say Bill Zito.
yeah, Bill.
Because every player that he goes out to get
Yeah,
has the buy-in.
but even Marchand said it at one point. I think it was a game against Toronto where a reporter asked what was said after the second intermission, and Marchand just says Paul Maurice has a way to talk, and you listen, and you wanna go through a wall after you listen to him talk. And I think it starts from there. Once you have that coach that gives it always, every game, and puts it in the players' heads, at one point it's just a natural thing. And with Florida, it seems it's like a light switch. They can turn it on at any time as long as he gives that.
The funny thing is that Paul Maurice was Toronto's coach
Yeah.
at one point, and most
but he was
Toronto
very
fans
young.
didn't like him.
No, he was young.
Was
When
he?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was one of his beginner gigs.
And what they really excel at is when there's blood in the water. When they smell blood in the water, like that the team is on their heels, man, they come at you and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. They just keep coming.
So what's funny and why this is important as an intro is that it just makes it seem that every other team out there is not ready.
Mm-hmm.
when they play Florida, because even the Montreal Canadiens, like, we are far from being anywhere close to the Florida Panthers. Toronto Maple Leafs were closer this year, much closer than any other team, it seems.
And you know what? They have that effect on teams that might want them to blow it up when maybe they don't need to because of how dominant they are. And they did it to Toronto, and they look like they're doing it to Carolina.
It's incredible. You're absolutely right, because they're talking about Rod Brendamore possibly losing his job.
Trading Aho. It's
meltdown in Carolina right now.
All right, let's go. We'll get into it.
I would preview the show, but you guys kind of gave context of everything we're going to talk about, right? So how about we get straight into our Odd Man Rush?
Oh, baby.
Odd Man Rush.
All right, so this is our Odd Man Rush, where we take news and notes and trends from the NHL, and usually we should talk about them for 30 seconds, but we make it into like over 3 minutes. So let's try
a minute.
over a minute. I think it's
You were being nice.
over
more
3
likely.
minutes, especially what I'm seeing here. It's going to be way over 3 minutes. Okay, so
Well, our last episode was an hour and 40 minutes
yeah,
long.
but we had the
so-
draft, so it wasn't so bad. Okay, so let's start with basically the playoff series that are going on. Let's talk about Stars versus Oilers. Oilers, we are Sunday, so Oilers just finished playing Dallas. They skunked them 6-1. So I'll go to you, Nick. First thing, what do you think about the Oilers Stars? Any surprises on how the Oilers are playing? And I also want to ask you about that nurse slash on Hintz. What did you think about that?
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't like the nurse slash on Hintz because when I looked at it, like there was multiple angles on Twitter, and it just looked like, okay, I understand when you're battling in front of the net, sometimes you're going to give a little love tap here and there. This looked like it was right on the ankle. It was purposely done. It didn't look very clean.
Almost like Bobby Clark.
Yeah, it was a bit dirty from Nurse, and I feel bad for Hintz because they need him, and it's showing that he is a big part of that team. And I know that Wyatt Johnston is coming, and I know he's already there. Actually, right? He's doing great, and I know Duchesne is a point per game player on this team, but that depth was something that Dallas had that was so good. And with Robertson playing kind of injured, and now Hintz playing or not playing, you're really seeing that depth kind of dwindle down.
Junior?
Yeah, and Wyatt Johnston's league worst in the playoffs, minus 16. He's having a really tough time in this playoffs, but I agree. I didn't like the slash at all. First of all, it's two-handed slash. It's most times goes punished in one way or another. And from what ex-players are saying, it's the most unprotected spot on the player's leg. There's no protection there. So I didn't like that either at all. Another lucky break they got today is they were supposed to get a penalty for puck over the glass. They didn't, and they scored 2 goals in 30 seconds right after. But no, look, the Oilers are playing their game, and McDavid obviously is on another level right now. Like totally turned it up big time. And I don't know if you saw that meme where they said like that look changed the series, and it was after game 1 where Draisaitl and McDavid were on the bench. They looked at each other, and then since then they've been unstoppable. But Oilers' depth, something that I think faltered them in the past years, is coming through.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Skinner was also one of these. The meme of the playoffs so far to me was where you have Skinner as shutout or 6 goals against. It's either one Skinner or the other, and there was just so many memes on Twitter about press the red button or don't press the red button for Skinner having a good game or not.
Actually, there was a tweet today that said as soon as Dallas scored their first goal, they said, "Okay, pull Skinner. It's not going to be a shutout."
That's it.
So yeah,
it's I'm very very surprised about the Oilers. I know you called it with listener Rooks during the draft. You said that the Oilers, grab those Edmonton players, jump on them, smash them. I think is what you said.
Yeah, definitely.
And you said it multiple times. You also said it for Carolina. So
listen, it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah, you're 500. So far the Oilers are doing great. So kudos to you for pointing that out. I went half Stars, half
Panthers.
and only half my pick looks right also.
Okay, so go back to the Eastern Conference now. Panthers and Carolina. Can Carolina make a series out of this? Is this are we dead in the water over here? You guys spoke about it. Is this basically Brandon Moore's last game coaching if he doesn't make this a series? Drew, I'll go with you first.
I don't think it's Brendan Moore's last game. I think it's more the roster that'll change before Brendan Moore changes. I think this is going to be a sweep. Even though I think the Hurricanes come out fighting next game, it'll probably be like an overtime win for the Panthers or something close, a 1-goal game.
But
Panthers are just too
But Carolina's going to score 7 goals, and Jackson Blake and Taylor Hall are each going to have a goal. Just to let you guys know.
Well, you know what? One of us is going to be wrong. No, the Panthers, man, like we said it in the intro, they're relentless. They're relentless. They're up 4-1 and they're forechecking like they're down by like 3 goals. They're out of this world. They're the best built team I've seen in the last decade.
To tie it in from the last segment that we spoke about the Stars and Oilers, to tie it into the Panthers Hurricanes, I was watching the end of the Stars and Oilers game. And it was just like, okay, pass it behind the net. Nobody's hitting. Nobody's forechecking anymore. Everybody take their time. The game's over. It's 6-1. If this was against the Panthers, they'd be freaking running everybody.
Finishing their check, giving cheap shots.
Check until cheap shots, whatever it takes. Get in their face, rub them the wrong way. Do something to make them realize that by Game 7, they're going to be exhausted, right? And you're not seeing that from the Stars right now. They look a little bit defeated. When it comes to the Hurricanes, they look defeated as well. I really hope that they win one. Just so that it's this stupid streak of 15 games in a row of not winning in the third round and the conference finals could finally come to an end. But you mentioned one thing about Brendan Moore. You said that you don't think it's his last game, and I agree with you. I don't think he's going to get fired over this. However, the roster shakeup that you mentioned, one thing that we have to keep in mind is the fact that Brendan Moore's system only fits the guys that he goes out to get. So the guys that he's going out to get is people that fit into his system. I don't know how many, what are you going to get? Pajot? What are you going to get out there that's going to be that two-way style that Brendan Moore loves to coach and play? I just find he needs to loosen the reins a little bit.
Well, what they need to do to start is get a second-line center. I mean, how could this team be so productive? And
KK.
Yeah, but seriously, how are they so productive? And some people had them as cup contenders, and Vince is high on them, but then you go look at their roster, they play well as a team and in a system, but their second line center.
I think Jordan Staal is really their second line center. I know he's their third line center,
right?
But I actually think he's their second line center because of the minutes he plays and the way he plays is conducive to the Rod Brind'Amour style.
So a Sam Bennett would be a good second line center. Yeah,
right.
That would fit. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Listen, to all you Hurricane fans, let me tell you this. Not long ago, last year, Panthers were up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and Edmonton brought them to 7 games. So there's still hope. Now, you don't have McDavid, and you don't have Draisaitl, but for tomorrow's game, you have Taylor Hall,
you don't have
Jackson Blake,
and you have Jackson Blake. So just, one game at a time, I tell you. One game at a time.
Nikishin has only played 1 minute and 20 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
He's barely played. He's played one game, and they were calling up Morrow for Chatfield because Chatfield was injured.
He played the last game, Morrow.
Yeah, Morrow played last game, not Nikishin. So, again...
The
reason... It doesn't matter. The reason why is because of the fact that he wants them to fit their system 100% before playing. And it's just unfortunate. You have a talent like Nikishin and he's just sitting there.
How many times do I have to ring this bell?
What do you have to lose at down 3-0?
There we go. All right.
I'm done.
Since we're Montreal fans, obviously, and we live in Montreal, this is big news, or we think it's big news, but Demidov staying in Montreal for the offseason. What do you guys think about this, Nick?
Well, I think it's he's saying all the right things, and I'm always cautious when I hear things on Twitter and stuff that come out and say, well, he's learning both languages, he's learning the culture, he's learning the city. These are all positives, obviously, for Demidov because as Habs fans, you kind of want to make sure that he's integrated into your society and he's all in on the Montreal Canadiens. So I think it is a very big positive that he's staying in the city. But I also take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, he just came over. Okay, he's probably settling into his new abode. Is it really big news? I don't know.
Junior?
I think it goes to show. I think culture-wise, team culture-wise, it's big. He's acclimating himself to his new community, his new surroundings. I think it'll help him transition next year when he comes to training camp. It'll be a little bit smoother considering he's already played NHL games. So he's just getting used to his environment. Personally, I love this kind of stuff. But and coming from a superstar, it sets a good example too, right? Possibly a future superstar. So look, Lane Hudson does it. He's on the ice 24/7. The guy, whether it's here at his hometown or whatever. So no, it's good. I like that mentality. I love that stuff.
All right.
Here comes the money.
Is that the no. It could have been that. Huh? All right. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that we have a new addition to our room, and we call it the whiteboard. So that's where we're going to be putting. Ooh, Nick. Okay. Here comes the money.
What's this beat about here?
So basically, any side bets we'll be doing during the season, whatever, we'll put them there so we'll remember, and we'll.
We bought a whiteboard, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's used, and we didn't really buy it; it was given it to us. But we don't make that money yet. Okay, so the first bet on this whiteboard is obviously we had to go with a Toronto topic. So, Mitch Marner destination. So, I think we can all agree right now that we all, and a lot of people, do not believe that Mitch Marner will sign with Toronto before free agency. He's going to test out free agency to see exactly what he can get out there.
And the word is he's not signing with a Canadian team.
Yeah. So, So, we were going to say, who do you guys think Mitch Marner will sign with? And give us some reason on the reason you think he will sign with them. Who do I have first on the board? I have Nick.
Yeah.
Nick, go.
I think Mitch Marner is going to be pursued and ultimately signs with the Vegas Golden Knights. I do not think that the Vegas Golden Knights right now have the cap space, but as they've shown in the past, they are willing to make drastic moves in order to make the cap space when they're targeting a certain player, certain star player. So, personally, knowing that Marner wants to get away a little bit from the media, get away a little bit from the actual spotlight, Vegas would be the perfect fit for him. They're a competitor. He's in his prime of his career, so I think that he wants to go to a competitor. I don't think he wants to go to a rebuilding team right now. He's coming from a Toronto team that is making the quarterfinals. I don't think that he wants to take a step back and go to a rebuilder now. So Vegas, for me, fits perfectly because they could use a winger of his caliber. Eichel is already a top-notch center on that team. You add Marner to them, they become even more of a competitor than they are now. And I think they're a perennial Stanley Cup contender year after year anyways. So this just boosts them up, and it gives Marner everything he wants. He'll get his money. It's a tax-free state, so he'll get his money. Even if it's just $12 million, it's still more than he would have gotten in Toronto or Montreal or any other a big market that has a lot of taxes. It's a contender, and they are willing to do what it takes to get those stars. So for me, and I'm going to write it down while you go on your but I'm going to say Vegas.
I'll just inform the audience for Vegas. So Vegas basically right now is projected at $9.65 million cap space. They only have 18 players signed out of 23 players. The one thing that's murmuring out there is that Pietrangelo might be a Shea Weber type thing where he might be basically retiring but not really retiring, like a Carey Price basically.
Well, that's going to create a lot of cap space.
That's going to create up 8.8 million because the big thing with With Vegas, I think that not hurt them, but the big thing is they have Hannafin at 7.3 and Theodore at 7.4 right now for next year, and Pierangelo 8.8. So
I mean, they didn't do that Hannafin for nothing, so they know. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, Hannafin for sure. They're gonna have to fill up their. If they get Marner, they're gonna have to trade, make space for sure, and they're gonna have to sign people at $900,000 to play on their third and fourth line, right?
They will.
So we'll see. Okay, so Junior, who do you think yours?
Okay, well, similar to Nick, I also think he's not going to go to a rebuilding team. I was contemplating between two. LA is the team ultimately that I said he won't go to. So for me, it's the Florida Panthers. You can't beat them, join them.
Wow, Florida Panthers.
Yeah, the Florida Panthers.
That's an interesting pick.
I think, first of all, like Nick, tax-free state, so his contract might not be as high in terms of AAV. They got Sam Bennett, that's a UFA. Whether he stays or not, that'll be interesting to see. But like Vegas, if they need to make room, they will. They have no picks. Okay, they have no picks in the first 3 rounds this year. They have no picks in the first round, third round of next year. So it's not like this team could stay alive, and start building through the draft unless they blow it up. So one way to extend your window without having young core coming up, it's by signing elite free agents like Mitch Marner. So he's not quite built like the Florida team is, but
he'll be well protected. But
I think he can add something that they maybe lack a little bit, which is like elite skill. And they don't lack it, but I mean, if you add that to the second line, it's a super compliment to have.
So while Junior writes his
Florida Panthers and Mitch Marner.
So for the audience, Florida Panthers next year seems like they have $90 million in cap space. The downfall on this is they only have 16 active roster players right now out of 23 with that $90 million cap space. So even if Marner, let's say, shoots for $10 million because it's a tax-free state, they have $9 million to fill up another 6 spots. So, Nick, what do you think? What do you think? I mean, like Junior said, if you can't beat them, just join them.
I think it would be a very interesting fit. Not sure about the dog mentality that Marner has in the playoffs to join a Florida team, but if anybody could convert him, I think that's the team that could do it. I know that a lot of the Toronto boys are talking about potentially going out there and getting a Sam Bennett to help their culture in their room and help their side of things. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is like an off-season free agency swap, right? Marner goes one way, and not that it's a trade, but just each signs at each other's respective teams. It'd be fun.
If I could just add one more thing, it would be the most Florida Panthers thing to do. Go get... So they've been flattering and the Leafs since they eliminated them, even while they were playing them. But like it almost feels like it's mocking, right? Go get their player and turn him into something that they always thought he would be, a winner.
Yeah.
So I went a different tactic. I went with a rebuilding team that is almost there. So I went to the San Jose Sharks. Woo. And the reason I went to the San Jose Sharks is that...
You wanted to lose your first board member?
No, it's... you see, when you have a big brother and he has a chance to talk to you and convince you to go to San Jose...
I think he's talking to you.
No, but...
Jumbo Joe?
Jumbo Joe. Jumbo Joe is very, very close with the San Jose organization. Was very close to Marner and Matthews in Toronto. I mean, San Jose has their number one centerman, Celebrini.
Absolutely.
They have their number
Superstar.
two centerman in Will Smith. They have their number one defenseman in Sam Dickinson. Depending on what happens in the draft, maybe Schaefer. Depending. They have a number one goalie in Askarov. The pieces are there. Young pieces, but the pieces are there. And at the end of the day, San Jose can afford to offer $14 million.
I can see him going to California. I can absolutely see him.
So I put the affiliation with Joe Thornton, the bond they had in Toronto, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gives Joe Thornton a call, or if Jumbo Joe gives him a call and says, "Listen, why not San Jose?" So
I
go with San
like
Jose.
that you thought outside of the box. You could go ahead and put your SJ up there. It's much shorter than Florida, but again, it all depends on what Mitch Marner wants, right? If he's chasing the dollars, that could work. And I like that you kind of use relationships in order to connect the dots of where he could possibly land. So that's actually good insight there on the Marner discussions.
I just think that, you never say no to a superstar if he's willing to come, right? At the end of the day, he's still a 100-point player. I just feel like they have a bit too much of the same type of players, right? Will Smith, Celebrini, Chernyshov. He's like super skilled. Maybe what they need is like that grittier
Sam Bennett.
production. We're always just going to say Sam Bennett.
Everybody could use a Sam Bennett, guys.
Everybody. He's sensational in the playoffs, especially, man. Wow.
I'm just going to go on to the next topic because it kind of connects to the Marner. And I don't know if you want to say it because...
Yeah, sure. Because we just I think Toronto fans are more excited about this one. And basically it was that Shanahan's contract is not renewed in Toronto. We can say the Shani plan kind of didn't work. And it was also said that they will not be hiring another person to replace Shanahan, and they'll be giving more power to, not more power, but
More
say.
more say to Berube and Trilling, who is their GM. So I'll ask, but I'm pretty sure. Did you see this coming? Is this where Toronto is? Is it because of Shanahan's decisions, or not decisions? Sorry, is it because Shanahan had too much say in anything that happened in that organization? Nick?
Well, I think that the issue, and I think we were talking about it in the Llama chat, where Shanahan went wrong, because he did a lot of good outside of the roster. So he built a good back office team. He built a good, he brought the alumni back in the fold, where they were kind of shunned away by the previous regime. He did a lot of good on that. I think where he went wrong is how highly he praised Dubas as a GM, a very young GM, an inexperienced GM. And Dubas kind of got taken to the bank by Marner and by Matthews and everybody else. And that was on Shani in the end because it was his decision to go out and hire Dubas. He had other options available to him, but he didn't want to let Dubas go. And he went and he gave him a GM job that maybe Dubas wasn't necessarily ready for. And then COVID hit and the world stopped. And those those $11 million contracts, when the cap didn't go up anymore, basically handcuffed them. And from 2017 all the way, they kind of couldn't afford anything else because the cap wasn't going up much. Now the cap's going a little bit higher. So Shanahan won't be there anymore. Toronto fans are probably happy about that. And Treliving will have more power. So I like what Treliving did in his first year. In his first year, he went out and he got a better defense, a harder hitting defense. Carlo was a master move. I loved Carlo. Tanev was a great pick, even though he's a bit older, a bit long in the tooth. But just those additions made Toronto much better. And that's all Treliving. So how much is the downfall really Shanahan's fault? I kind of tie it to his decision of hiring Dubas.
It's really touchy in the sense that at the end of the day, this core is his, right? He built this core. And Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, whatever, they brought him in, but that's one of the best cores in the league.
Oh, this is the best. This is the best Toronto team I've ever seen in my lifetime.
So that's a credit to him and his staff. That can never be taken away. Now, how they manage contracts and that kind of stuff, that's where it gets problematic because they didn't leave themselves any room to surround these guys with what they lack, which is drive and grit and that winning mentality, right? Which they haven't earned yet. They didn't gain that experience. So I think at the end of the day, Shanahan still played a big part in bringing Toronto to where they are right now. And sometimes you have those that they're really good at getting and drafting elite talent, and you have others that are really good at bringing in the grit. Like Bergevin was good at second-tier players and grit players and bringing in that kind of stuff on good deals. But he wasn't good at acquiring elite talent or drafting elite talent. So I think it's a mix of everything. But like Toronto fans right now, you're pissed off at Shanahan, but at the end of the day, he helped build this team to where it is right now, which is every year a contender.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. This is the best Toronto team I've ever seen in my lifetime, and it's better than the Sundin days. It's better than the Domi days. It's just,
and I have faith in Tree Living to get what's missing.
So much more
here.
talent.
Don't you have faith in Tree Living to
I
fix
think,
things now, like to especially with the cap going up?
I think with Berube having a little bit more say and Trey Living together, I think they could make the fix.
Listen, one thing about Trevelyan is when he lost Kachuk and Gujo, he didn't respond well the year after with Calgary. So if he loses Marner, which is a 100-point player,
and Tavares,
which is a point per game this year, he has work to do.
But it was harder.
They're still a playoff team even without those guys.
Yeah,
they'll still make the playoffs. Now you have to go and get the pieces to compete in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which Tavares and Marner have clearly shown they're not pieces that compete in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It might even be better to lose them.
It's easier to go get players now in Toronto than it was in Calgary when he lost Gojo and Kachuk. Yeah. Right? They still have Matthews. They still have Nylander. Yeah. So,
all right.
So nice.
Coaching. Yeah, nice. What a player. New coaching hiring. And we'll put these together: coaching hiring and GM hiring. So coaching, Blashill gets the coaching job in Chicago. Last coaching job was with Detroit, if I am not mistaken. He coached Detroit 7 years. The first year he coached them, they finished third in the Atlantic. After that, it was a little less: 7th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 7th, 6th. Made the playoffs that first year and missed the playoffs all the other years. After that, he went to be an assistant coach with Tampa Bay under John Cooper. Do you guys think that him being under the wing of John Cooper helped him get the job at Chicago?
Well, I think Blashill has always been good at developing prospects into good NHL players. So if you look at Chicago, what's Chicago? It's a bunch of young kids. So if they really want to develop, I think they went out to get a coach that could develop. And I think that was their take here. What does this mean fantasy-wise? I don't think that necessarily Chicago has a team to compete. But I expect Bedard to have a bounce-back season next season. I expect some of the younger guys like Nazar to keep producing, keep getting better. Leshunov keep getting better. So if we want to twist this into a fantasy take, I think this is good news for people that own those young kids in Chicago.
Another top 3 pick this year?
Yeah.
Porter Martone, maybe, to play with Bedard.
Chicago has 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. So, look, I like it. I mean, it's not an easy job to take, right? He must have. I'm sure he asked for a leash because it is a rebuilding team. And with his history with the younger players, I think the fit is nice. He's won a Calder Cup before, so he knows what it's like to have to manage younger players. So, and he's been in the NHL. He was third in the Atlantic, like you said. So he knows what it's like to have some experienced guys and some young guys. So for me, it's a nice fit. We'll see where it goes. At the end of the day, the results are what's going to matter, right? So we'll see what happens.
New York Islander fans, rejoice. Rejoice. Your new GM is not Marc Bergevin, but your new GM is Mathieu Darche, who was in the hunt for the Habs GM spot before Ken Hughes got it. So what do you guys think about Mathieu Darche getting this job? What do you guys think about, is it an ideal job for a first-time GM? Because that's what Mathieu Darche is.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Is there a doctor
in the house?
I'm a doctor.
I think Mathieu Darche is the best candidate that could have taken this job. And I think it's an incredible hire because at the end of the day, he is going to bring an outside of the box thinking. He has been an assistant GM.
Why'd you play that clip?
I'll tell you. He's been an assistant GM in Tampa Bay for so long. He's like legitimately, it's like you're hiring Brisebois, right? You're literally taking the right hand man from one of the most impressive organizations in the last decade. I think it's an absolute great job. And why did I play that clip? Because I think that he's going to come in here and he's going to surge in everything in the island. I think he's going to, first of all, go ahead and make sure that some of these longer contracts that all have no movement clause somehow get moved, because there is a lot not going well in the island right now. Barzal, you mentioned it last time. There's three players really that you build around: Barzal, Sorokin, and Dobson. Dobson needs a new contract, so this is his first time GM negotiating a new contract. But if you look at Tampa and the way Tampa has done things, there's not that many people that are being overpaid.
And you have a first overall pick this year.
You have a first overall pick this year. You're gonna be I'm expecting Matthew Darsh to come in and really shake up this team. I don't know if he'll do it all in the first year, because that's a lot to do in one off season. I think Patrick Roy, he'll keep him on kind of as not his guy, but somebody that is going to have another shot at coaching. And then he's just going to keep doing little changes in the next couple of years to become competitive. And I don't think it will take that long.
Junior.
I love this hire. I just think it's an adjustment too, though, because he went from guys like Kucherov, Point, Gensel making $9.5 million. You got guys like Barzal making $9 million on this team. It's not the same. It's really not the same. The context is completely different. So I'm curious to know, does he value Barzal at $9 million? Like, what was the meeting about? Was it, let's blow this up? Roy is really good with young players and developing. So do we want to rebuild and strip everything down? Or is it, okay, there's ways to maneuver here in order for it not to be a full rebuild? At the end of the day, though, they have the first overall pick, so that speeds up anything you want to do, right? And but their depth chart in terms of prospects is weak. All they have is maybe Caleb Ritchie, and they got Cole Iserman. So, which Caleb Ritchie might be a little closer than Cole Iserman, but I like it. I like going and pick the brain from someone who's been on a winning team, on a winning mentality. That never hurts. So I think, especially between him and Bergevin, Darsh had to be the play. So I'd be very happy if I were an Islanders fan right now. But I do think there's going to be a bit of a shakeup nonetheless.
Options are out there. He has the first overall pick. You pick Schaefer, Dobson becomes a bit more expendable, right?
But wouldn't you want both? Like, if you have both, because Noah Dobson's only 25. So if you have Dobson and Schaefer for the long run, ooh.
Yeah. But if Dobson's return is big enough where it helps you in the closer future, it all depends what their plan is, right? So it'll be an interesting.
What Roy tells him about Dobson,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
If Roy's like, Dobson's not for me, is it the coach or the player?
I really don't think Roy will have any say.
I think
very much like Tortorella. Nobody cares about what the coach thinks. Not in hockey. Football.
I think Roy took that job knowing he had a bit more of a say, because he's always wanted a say.
Lamoriello.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They're cut from the same cloth almost.
Yeah, but Lou's not there anymore.
That's true.
All right, so these go hand in hand. Basically, Denmark upsets Canada at the World Championships, and then in the finals, the U.S. win their first gold at the World Championships in 92 years.
Wow.
What's more surprising, the states that haven't won in 92 years a gold medal in the World Championships, or that Denmark completely shut down Canada? Junior?
It's got to be Denmark, who then went on to get smashed by Switzerland in the semifinal. That has to be the bigger surprise. U.S., they were always in it, never really won. But no, to me, the ultimate surprise is Denmark, especially considering that Canada had Crosby, they had McKinnon, they had Celebrini. So they had a stacked team, It's not to say... so for me, the upset is Denmark, and congratulations to the Americans on winning their first gold.
Yeah, did you see they actually put Goudreau's jersey
Yeah,
while
nice.
they were celebrating with the
Yeah.
trophy. It was a very nice touch. The U.S. not winning in 92 years is absolutely bonkers to me, considering how many elite players come out of that team or out of that country. It's absolutely bonkers to me. The thing that I'll say is that, look, the IIHF tournament is all the teams that didn't make the playoffs basically are sending their players there, right? Is it a tournament of best on best? Not really. Like, that's the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I like the tournament as a prove it area for some young kids. Like Celebrini really showed great for Canada, and that was something nice to see. But other than that, I don't care that much about the II, who wins it. I just want to see the young players play for their countries. That's what I care about.
But it's
more.
interesting that this comes right after the Four Nations, where Dylan Larkin said we need more players representing U.S. in the World Championship. So it's interesting on
Yeah, because
how.
he hasn't made the playoffs in 30
Yeah.
years, so all he knows is the World
Yeah.
Championship.
Oh wow, that's terrible. And there it is. That is our odd man rush, and as usual, it was definitely more than 10 minutes.
Odd Man Rush. Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend.
All right, the playoff pool is happening. And
I sure
I am
hope so.
in last place of the. No, there's only 4 teams. So
Womp, womp, womp.
listener Rooks is actually killing it in this pool, and mostly because of today.
Yeah, because she's
14
smashing
points.
Edmonton players.
She smashed. Yeah. What kind of husband are you that you let her smash Edmonton players? The fact of the matter is that listener Rooks is going to be in a very good spot if Edmonton continues moving on in the next round. I have a lot of Florida players and Dallas players, but Dallas looks a little bit beaten here. So
Still a long ways to go.
still a long ways to go, but so far it's been fun. This tournament's been a lot of fun, especially that I'm in it and you guys aren't. So
Wow, like that.
guys, do you see anything that, like listener Tino, I think has a lot of Carolina players. I would be worried for him moving forward.
Yeah.
Listener Umbi, I'm not sure what he has exactly.
He's got a mix of Florida and Dallas like
Yeah.
you.
like me, so he's a mix of Florida and Dallas.
And he
like
has
me.
McDavid.
But he lost Hintz and Connor Brown.
Great, that's great for me, but still, well, I'm only 2 points back, so it's not great. It's still very early, let's just say. Listener Rooks is running away with it because of today's 6-1 Edmonton win.
It'll be interesting if Carolina gets smoked. It'll be interesting because then it's anybody who has Carolina, Florida players. That's no more points until the finals.
And what's good too for listener Rooks is she has Reinhardt. So if they sweep, it's extra. Like they don't have to force him back in, So it's extra rest for him.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, but it's been a fun tournament so far. So if you guys next year want to join, we're also going to have a regular season tournament coming up, which we will go in further into discussion. But I just wanted
Way
to say
too early.
that. No, we'll mention it from now. Guys, this is open to everybody. So
Reach out.
We're having a lot of fun with it. It's a Survivor League, and hopefully next year there's going to be even more participants. We had 20.
And if we really pushed it, we would have had more. But
We would've had
we
more.
limited it to 20. What is happening, guys? All right, we'll take a quick break here.
The fastest game on the ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs, where legends are made and every shift can turn the tide. And now, with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slapshot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to the betting Stanley Cup playoffs? You're in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sports app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. For Game 4 of the Florida and Carolina game, you can put Jackson Blake, anytime goal scorer, and Taylor Hall, anytime goal scorer. Combine those two at plus 2,100. Put in your wager. Here's a kicker. New customers can bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a playoff payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bet when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/I.
We're gonna get it one time.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I don't know what you're doing on your phone here.
We're
I
not
was,
we're not even back on the screen yet.
hold on, I'm trying to take out the overlay.
I think you need a mouse.
Yeah, we might need a mouse.
I think you need to be ready.
No, but I can't do the where the hell is it? There
It's
it is. DraftKings, actually, you guys, you don't know, but they paid me to have this on for a little
For the whole show. So if you're on YouTube, you'll just see the DraftKings logo.
Yeah, basically, if you're on YouTube, you'll understand what this is all about. But yeah, no. So you see, like the audio is at the bottom of the pictures all the way on top.
We'll talk about it after.
Ooh, mom. All right, what's next, fellas?
The post-mortem. And where's our soundbite for the post-mortem? I think we
don't have one in
I'm pretty sure
particular,
we
but
don't
maybe
have
let me talk to you or something like that.
Yeah, do we even have Let Me Talk to You?
We didn't
Yeah,
really.
there we go.
And
Don't
as
touch my
per,
board.
as per,
Let me talk to you!
we're ready as ever here. All right, so this is postpartum of round 2 of the NHL playoffs, where we will take the eliminated teams.
Post what?
Post-mortem?
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
What did I say?
Postpartum.
Sorry, this is the post-mortem of round 2 eliminated teams. Wow, that's hilarious. I mean, you could call it postpartum, I guess, if you think about it.
Not really.
Not really. Oh my god, that's hilarious. All right, well, I'm glad I lightened the mood and made you guys laugh. Have a good week. This is it.
We're still getting
I'm just kidding.
we're still getting complaints for any women that are listening to this show right now.
We should end the podcast.
Yeah, right now. Okay, Junior, let's try this
All right,
again.
let's
all
try
right.
this.
So this is the post-mortem of round 2. The NHL playoffs round 2, where we take the teams and we look at their over and under achievers throughout the year and the playoffs, players to keep an eye on for next year, who's in the pipeline that we should know about and track, and lastly, what the state of the franchise is. So we're going to start right with the hottest topic of them all. We're going to start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we touched on Shanahan earlier and we touched on Marner. We'll get to that a little later. What I want to know from you guys first, and you can add a playoff twist to it or a regular season, who are your over and under achievers for the Toronto Maple Leafs? We'll start with you, Vince. Man, I have tears coming down my eyes.
No, well, overachievers. I mean, for a season he had, John Tavares was an overachiever just because I don't think anybody thought he could be a point per game player still.
Don't forget, overachiever means you don't think that they're going to be able to.
I don't,
repeat it.
but I don't think he'll be able to replicate
I
the
don't think
season
so
he
either.
had this year
I agree.
to next year. I don't think he'll be a bad player next year, but I don't think he could replicate that
Point per
season.
game.
Yeah, point per game. I don't see it, especially if he doesn't play with Toronto, and especially if Mitch Marner's not there. So that's why I would consider him an overachiever. And underachiever for the Toronto Maple Leafs, man. Like, if you're looking at playoffs, you can say, you can say Austin Matthews and Marner, but I mean, can you really say that with the season they had? I feel it's. You know what? I'm gonna go one player, Scott Lawton, and I'm gonna go with him just because he came in playing second line center with Philly, putting up points, putting up minutes, and he kind of disappeared with Toronto. Like in a third role center, he wasn't there. The biggest thing Toronto didn't have, especially in the playoffs, was secondary scoring. And I think they were counting on him to be one of those guys to do it, and he didn't. So I'll go with Scott Lawton as my underachiever.
Yeah, Scott Lawton, I mean, in the playoffs, he had a couple of games where you really saw that he blocked a lot of shots, or he would win some faceoffs here and there, and he had a good game. But you were expecting more when you first acquired him. You were expecting him to contribute more than just that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where you come in and saying he was an underachiever, especially for the playoffs. And I agree with that part. He was my underachiever as well. Somebody that I was really excited about, though, and it's not an overachiever or underachiever, so I don't care about your question, is Matthew Nyes. Like, Matthew Nyes impressed me. 22 years old, and he put up 29 goals, 29 assists, 58 points in only his second real season in the NHL.
Impressive.
It's impressive. I'm expecting him to do even more next year. He will get paid because of this. Hopefully, it's a long-term contract that he gets from Toronto, because I really think they could really use a player like this for their future, right? The big-bodied winger, a la Slavkovsky style. Maybe not exactly the same talent level, but still an amazing player to have, and he's perfect for Toronto. So I think Matthew Nyes is my player to look out for.
All
for
right,
next year.
very well. I'm gonna ask you
which is the next topic.
Before we get there, your thoughts quickly. I thought Anthony Stolarz was a bit of an overachiever.
Oh, he played really well.
Because he played really well, and his stats were pretty amazing. 2.14 goals against average, 926 save percentage, 24 quality starts out of 34. The only reason I'm saying that is because he only played 34 games. I think if he plays, I think he solidified him as the 1A, and then Wool's probably the 1B heading into next year. So he should be getting closer to 50 games. And that's when I think his numbers might drop a little bit by playing more games.
But we had it in the preview at the beginning of the year for Toronto that their goaltending was a question mark, because Wool is a good goalie, and he showed, but he never played a lot of games. At least that was my commentary, that he hadn't played a lot of games. And Stolarz has great metrics, great numbers, great underlying stats, but again, has never played a lot of games. So these are two guys now that hadn't played a lot of games. And again, Stolarz only played 7 more games than he played the year before that in Florida, and had the same kind of record, right? So I think it's impressive. I think Stolarz was a very, very good goalie. He's just not somebody that normally plays a lot of games. And yes, I'm not saying that, Bennett's shot to the head is a culprit, but he hasn't played a 50-game schedule necessarily. So as a 1A, 1B tandem, I think they're fine going into next year. I'm just curious to see what he continues, if he could continue it or not.
Vince, Nick already spoke about Nyes as a player to keep an eye on next year. Do you have somebody else you want to keep an eye on, or good or bad?
I think he's the key guy. He's Matthew Nyes, and see how much he signs for, and I think whoever they bring in to replace Marner and Tavares, if they're replacing both guys, I think those are the guys to keep an eye on.
Well, I think to keep an eye on is exactly what you just said. The guys that they bring in for next year.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have money now, right? If you don't get Marner back, you have 11 million plus
11 million of Tavares.
11 million of Tavares. You have cap space now. So I'm very curious. Are they going to go out there and try to get one of the top line defensemen, like a top pairing defenseman?
That should be the priority.
Because Morgan Riley, sorry, he's not a top pairing defenseman. He's a good number 2 offensive defenseman, meaning like a second pairing offensive defenseman.
Yeah.
But as a top pairing guy, he's not there. So if they could go out and maybe grab one of these UFAs on defense, or trade for
An RFA.
like I know that Byram is somebody that has been mentioned. He's not a top pairing guy necessarily, but he's still so young. He could be
He could run your power play. You need someone to run that power play, especially when Marner not there. You need someone to run that power play. So to me, it's to watch out who they get in to replace these two players.
You mentioned Dobson before. Darsh might consider,
But the next question is,
Yeah, well, my eye is on Joseph Wool. Not to keep with the goaltending.
Rasmus Anderson.
He needs to take the next step for this team. Stolars won't be there forever. But yes, Rasmus Anderson would be a nice pickup for them as well. Not to say he'll run the power play, but okay. So they don't have much in their pipeline either. Whatever young guys they had, especially Matthew Nyes was there. So Nick, who's in their pipeline that we should know about? Is it just that one player? And how relevant can he really be?
It's not just that one player. There's actually one guy that I really think.
Well, the one player you guys are talking about is who? So that people know.
It's Easton Cowan.
Cowan, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Easton Cowan, I think, is going to be a middle six player, not a top line player like some Toronto fans currently have him touted as. And it's not a shot against Toronto at all. I'm just stating a fact. I don't think that this team, like Easton Cowan, might be good as a minor leaguer, but he doesn't have enough talent to really show that he's a top six player. So middle six guy maybe sniffs the second line because of desperation, really, but nothing more than that. I actually had their goalie, and I'm trying to find him now.
Hillbilly.
Hildeby? Hildeby?
Not Hillbilly, no. Hildeby. I actually think that Hildeby is the next number one goalie on that team. And sorry, you'll excuse me because I'm actually trying to pull up his stats here, but I'm all over the place. I mean, after that comment,
Dennis Hildeby played with the Toronto Marlies in 2024-2025. He had 30 games played, 16 wins, 2.55 goals against average, and a 908 save percentage.
Yeah, so that's it. So he's turning like 24 next season. So he's right at that age where you're kind of seeing him needing to start playing some NHL games.
Yeah.
So I think Hildeby, in the end, 6'7" goaltender. I think he's going to be their future, and he's an RFA. So I want to really see what they're going to do with that because they won't have Matt Murray on the books anymore. They won't have. They're still going to have Wool and Stolars
for Stolars for one more season after this, and Wool signed the 3-year deal.
So do you start seeing him being the Stolars replacement? Does he start maybe sniffing some games in the NHL this year, especially if Stolars doesn't play a lot? That's who I'm keeping my eye on as their best player.
And just to stay on the topic of goalies, they do have a Russian, Artur Akhtiamov, who seems to have been picking it up as of late. So, and the Leafs are pretty high on him. Did you?
I got Ben Danford. If they go pick up a offensive defenseman, which they need, Ben Danford's known for his defensive play. So, and he's a first round pick. Yes, he's 31st overall, but he's still a first round pick. So if they can go pick up a good offensive defenseman, I think Ben Danford can top the top 4 in that defense and be a solid pillar on that defensive line.
That Tanev contract is going to age poorly, man.
Yeah. 6
years left. He's 35 years old. Okay, so state of the franchise. I from the beginning, I was the type that I think they're almost there. I would have tried to bring Marner back. He's already making $11 million. I think they could have managed that and replaced Tavares. But it looks like that's not going to happen. If anything, they might keep Tavares and not Marner. Where do you guys see this franchise right now, and what's the plan going forward?
I think that Trey Living is going to make them a competitor continuing. The window's still open for them, whether they have Marner or not. I love Marner. I think he's a great player, great vision. But at the end, his compete level in the playoffs just wasn't there. He didn't have that dog mentality. He didn't have that put my head through a wall for my coach kind of mentality. And you need that in the playoffs. You need him to be driving to the net, not skating away from the net, which is often what he ends up doing. So for me, Toronto had too many of those similar type players, and by losing him here and spreading that money out, I think that the state of the franchise is they're going to continue being competitors even without Marner. Maybe the regular season points won't be as high, but I think they're going to have maybe a little bit more success maybe in the playoffs.
I mean, you're removing Marner and Tavares, let's say. So who they bring in is very important, because if they don't bring in someone of close to
very
that
important
caliber,
offseason.
But that's why I think
They can't run it back again.
No, but that's why I think the state of the franchise is in very good hands, because I think it's the first year they're actually going to have cap space that they can play with. And there'll be no Brendan Shanahan whispering behind your ear, right? So it's going to be the
To keep the
GM.
core fourth
Yeah,
together.
it's going to be the GM and the coach talking. Berube, you see Berube he knows what type of player he needs for his system, but he also he knows where the player has talent. So they're not going to just bring in guys that, like an example, Carolina, that can just play a two-way game or whatever. Berube, I think his hockey sense is so good that his input's going to be important to Traveling to see what exactly they need. So I think the state of the franchise is in good hands, and I think whether they lose Martin or Tavares, they're still a playoff team next year. I mean, you still got a almost 70 goal scorer. You still have William Nylander. You have Matthew Nice, who's tearing it up. So I think their franchise is in good hands. They just need to shake things up a bit.
look, what worries me is, especially if they don't bring back Tavares, is that there's not a lot of inventory for second line centers, and there's a lot of teams that need a second line center. So you're gonna need, either for free agents, you're gonna need the cap space for it, and
Which they will have.
And if it's through trade, you gotta have assets. So we're gonna see. All right, moving on to the second team eliminated in the Eastern Conference in round 2, the Washington Capitals, who were I don't want to say manhandled, but wasn't as difficult as we thought it'd be for Carolina to get through. They win, was it 4-1 the series? They get eliminated. Let's get right into it. Over and underachievers, Vince, for the Washington Capitals.
Man, I hate to do this, but if we're going with the definition, we're going with overachievers. Alexander Ovechkin. I think Alexander Ovechkin was on a high this year.
To break the record.
He took that off season very, very seriously because he wanted to break that record. But I don't see Alexander Ovechkin scoring 44 goals. If you looked at Alex Ovechkin in the playoffs, he looked a little slow sometimes. He looked like he was a 39-year-old player. So I feel next year it's basically just his, let me see how much I can add on to my record, and his farewell party. So I think Alex Ovechkin is going to be, it was the overachiever this year because I don't think he could repeat what he did next year. I don't even think he'll get close to that 44 goals next year, especially with injuries. This year too, he was injury struck a few times. So, I mean, the guy is going to be 40. So no one beats out Father Time, right? Father Time always comes out on top. And I think this is what's going to happen next year with Alexander Ovechkin. As for underachiever, listen, there's a few on Washington that Rasmus Sandin, 30 points, 24 years old. You thought he was going to be what Jacob Chitram did this year when they traded for him. I think next year he'll have a better chance because I don't think John Carlson is there for much longer. So I'd go with Sandin as my underachiever.
Nick, thoughts?
Ovechkin as an overachiever, I kind of get it. Like he broke records this year. I don't think that he's going to be doing that again next year. I thought that I kind of wanted to see a little bit more from some of their other players. Like, it's hard because the whole team played really well. So I don't really see too many underachievers on this team. Do I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois will continue what he did last year? Maybe. He was doing pretty well.
60 points. About
60 points as a second line center is pretty good.
It's his highest point total in his career. 66 points in 82 games.
So maybe that takes a step a little bit back. But other than that, the whole team played so well that, like, even Alexei Protas, 24 years old, he was my find this year. I traded him away for JT Miller, but that's not because I didn't like the player. You have to give something to get something. Mm-hmm. But I picked him up off waivers in the first week of the season. He was my steal. He became such an important player. I don't know if he could repeat it next year, but he definitely looks like a top 6 player moving forward.
I have a quick overachiever, and it won't be popular, but I think Dylan Strome was a bit of an overachiever. He was a point-per-game player. Was never a point-per-game player before. And 34 of his points were on the power play. I think if Ovechkin regresses a little bit like we expect, the adrenaline of not going for that rush. I'm not saying they're not going to be a playoff team. I do think they're still very good. I just think he's more of a 70-point player, and I think that'll come back to life.
And Ovi said that he's looking to play out the rest of his contract,
It's
which is one more year.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think next year
he's retiring after that.
It's just his farewell tour, and that's it.
That could be another adrenaline rush, right?
Well, the Metropolitan Division, though, is not very strong. Mm-hmm. So I do see Washington making the playoffs again, but we'll see.
All right, so players to keep an eye out for next year. I think this is interesting because they have some players here that are relatively young. That some took steps forward, some didn't show what they could do yet. What do you guys feel like? Who are we looking for next year? Are we looking for a Pierre-Luc Dubois, or are we looking for more of a young guy?
No, I think Pierre-Luc Dubois has shown what he is. And he's between a 60 on a good season, 70 to 75 point player.
Whoa,
which he has 66 points he got this year, right?
I think that's
so. I think Alexei Protas is the one to look at on this team. 24 years old, getting into his prime.
30 goals
this year. 30 goals. Now, was this a lucky season? Because the years before that was 4 and 6 goals, but. It might be he just, he's a late bloomer at 24. 30 goals, 36 assists, 66 points in 76 games. I think he's someone to watch for. And I think he had great chemistry with another guy that I'm pretty sure Nick will choose to watch for. So
because you're looking at my computer.
It'll be interesting. No, because he's the other guy I was thinking.
Yeah, the guy to look out for me is McMichael. McMichael had 57 points in 82 games. He played on a 57-point pace. He played all 82 games, see what he did there. But he's a player that only had 16, almost 17 minutes of ice time on average for the year. He looks like... I know he wants to play center, so that's going to be interesting because if he insists to play center, then he's going to be a third-line center, right? You already have Dubois that you're paying, and you already have Dylan Strome. So I'm not so sure that he's going to get the center position that he really wants unless Dubois moves to the wing. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work because McMichael is 24 years old. He's entering his prime. Very young player, very good player. And you were expecting a lot from him from his college days, and then he kind of didn't show anything in the NHL for a while. Only 33 points the year before, but I'm very curious to see how McMichael plays next year.
Fair enough. And let's move on to their pipeline. So we had Leonard who made the jump.
There's so many on that.
Let's not talk about Leonard though, because he made the jump, so we know. But they've got quite a few players. So let's start with you, Vince. You seem like you're ready.
For a team that finished first in the East, you would think that their prospect pool is like Toronto. You have one or two. But I'm looking at the prospects. Like even if you say Ryan Leonard,
really well.
Yeah. If you say Ryan Leonard made the jump, I won't talk about two players because I know Nick will talk about them. But they have Ivan Miroshchenko. So many. So who's in AHL? Hershey, 20 years old, left winger. Tariq Parasak, he's the one that they just drafted last year,
I
who's
drafted him in Lama.
and who's had a hell of a season in WHL this year. So, I mean, they have
Cole Hudson.
Yeah, but I left him to you and the other guy. I know that you want to talk about the other guy too, so I would look out for those two
No,
guys.
actually, I was gonna expect you to pick Cole Hudson, so I was gonna pick somebody a little bit more obscure that maybe not everybody knows about.
Well, what about Andrew Castell? You're going to talk about Andrew Castell?
I don't know if I will. We'll
Okay,
see.
so you go ahead, Nick.
Well, you guys just named everybody, so let's.
Guys, they have they have such a good depth in their pipeline. It's unbelievable. They're going to be a good team for a very long time.
This is not a team that's going downhill, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Andrew Cristal has absolute upside. His biggest knock on him is that he's 5'10", but he is a creator. Very happy to have drafted him in Lama. To only played 29 games in the WHL this year for Spokane Chiefs, had 72 points. Just whatever. 29 games, 72 points. It's good times. He's an absolute creator, but I wasn't going to speak about him because another person, if you're in a deep fantasy league that you might want to take a look at, well, there's Cole Hudson, who's looking like he's going to be every bit as good as Lane. But it's Ilya Protas. Yeah. And Ilya Protas is the brother of Alexei Protas, who's already on the team. 124 points in 61 games for the Windsor Spitfires this year.
That's nuts.
I think listener Batista went out and picked him up in Lama late.
25 points in 12 playoff games.
He is an absolute find for this team that's already has an embarrassment of riches on their prospect pool. So I love Washington the way that they've played, and they look like they're going to be leading, like a leader in that Metropolitan Division for a very long time. I'm sorry, New Jersey fans. I know that you think that you have the best team out there. I think that Washington is not even there yet, even though they won the Eastern Conference this year.
Yeah, I think you guys are onto something, and that's going to tie into, I'm sure, the state of the franchise, which is a seamless transition, right? They retooled knowing that these guys are right there for like coming up, and now they're starting to integrate them slowly. So Leonard came up last year. I'm sure Cole Hudson is not far away. I think he has one more year probably he's going to do at college.
BU.
And then he'll come up right when John Carlson is going to step back, right? So to me, that's the state of the franchise. They're in the middle of a transition, and it's been flawless
but
so far.
They're competitive in the middle of the transition,
Exactly.
and that has a lot to do with how well they've drafted, but also really good coaching.
Pro scouting, too, is good.
Pro scouting is good, too, yeah.
Vince, you want to touch on that? Or
No, you guys said it. We're good.
So that does it for the Washington Capitals. Are we okay to move on to the West?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go at the perennial contenders, the Vegas Golden Knights, the perhaps future home of Mitch Marner. According to Nick, anyway, if you remember our board bet. So over underachievers, Nick, let's start with you for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Well, so this guy is my overachiever this year. I don't know if he should be an overachiever because I own him. And he is absolutely the greatest player that I've owned for a while.
And you've
in
owned a few.
LPHL, at least, because in Lama I have McKinnon. But in LPHL, I have Jack Eichel. And Jack Eichel ended up with 94 points this year. He was on a 100-point pace, only played 77 games, so that's only 5 games missed during the entire season. And he didn't have anything special of this year. Like his shooting percentage was 12%. He's been a career average 11% shooter. His last 3-year average is 11.7. So there's nothing special that happened on that side. His power play percentage was almost exactly the same. In fact, he had less power play time on ice this year than previous years. And he still got more power play points this year than previous year. So 100-point pace for Eichel. The year before that, he had an 89-point pace, 81-point pace. I think he's a 90-point player, not a 100-point player, and that's why I'm calling him an overachiever.
My God. Overachiever. Look at like this Vegas team. You have Eichel at 94, and then you go down to Stone at 67. Like, It's a huge difference. Once
Oh,
again,
Mitch Marner at 100.
yeah, I'll say Mark Stone. He basically did a point per game this year. 66 games played, 67 points. Once again, father time. 32 years old. He's been banged up a lot in the past few years. So I don't think he can put up this type of points next year. I don't even think he can play 60 games next year with the body he has. So
Wow.
I really do think that Mark Stone is the overachiever, because I just don't think he could repeat these stats from for next year.
Okay, and now, so fair enough. So who are we keeping an eye on next year? Who is someone that either is going to take the next step or maybe perhaps regress on this? Let's be honest, like they're an aging Vegas Golden Knights team, right?
Are they?
I mean,
They have
Barbashev is almost 30, Eichel's almost 30, Stone's 33,
Yeah, but when-
Sad's 32 and a half.
But when you're
32.
competing, that's the age you want your players to be.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying. So, like, who are we keeping an eye out for? Is there? I mean, there's candidates for regression for sure. Just like there's candidates that could maybe take the next step. So, who are we looking at here to keep an eye on for next year?
I want to see if Hurdle could repeat, because Hurdle scored 32 goals in 73 games this year for Vegas. Previous to that, it was 8 years ago that he had a 30 goal season. So I don't know if he could repeat that. He had a higher shooting percentage this year than he's had in recent years, so 18% shooting percentage. I'm very curious to see how he's gonna. Because if he's the number 2 center on that behind Eichel, I think that helps Eichel and it helps Vegas having a top 2 pairing, top 2 center spots taken by these players. So for me, I want to see if he could repeat that 30-goal season again.
To me, Shea Theodore, can he be a top 5 defenseman in the league in points? This year he was until he got hurt, but 6-7 games played, 57 points, highest point total in his career, signed a big contract. So, I mean, we can all agree he's the number 1 defenseman in Vegas right now. Pietrangelo is on the downfall. Hannafin does not have the offensive power that Theodore has. So I'm curious to see if Theodore can keep on taking that step and be a top 5 defenseman next year again, offensively.
Yeah, my eyes are on Dorofeev. Is he really a 30, 35 goal scorer? I think he's still young, so he could very well be. But we were completely wrong on him to start the year. And I'm looking forward to see who is Pavel Dorofeev. Okay, and so, again, perennial contenders usually don't have much of a pipeline, but anybody catch your eye on in the prospect pool of the Vegas Golden Knights, Vince?
There was one player that caught my eye.
There should only be one player.
Maybe 2. No, Trevor Connolly. I mean,
Yeah.
he got drafted last year, 19th overall. He needs to mature as a player,
As a person.
as a character also. But I think he showed that he's got talent to play in the NHL, and he's got the grit to play in the NHL. So to me, it's Connolly, and see how fast he can make that jump to the NHL.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I have to really pick somebody, it's the Russian kid that they got. I think that you had him there for a second. Go back to.
Is it Sapovaliv?
Yeah, that's it. So, Sapovaliv is only 20 years old. He's playing in the AHL right now. Brendan Brisson was somebody that I had high hopes for in the past, but he's kind of I'm running out of patience for him at 22 years old. He just hasn't seen much lately, hasn't shown much. I don't know. I don't want to say too many things because this team doesn't really have a pipeline other than Connolly right now. It'll be interesting to see what those guys could do.
All right, so what's the state of this franchise, Nick?
I think they're at a bit of a crossroads. They lost Thompson. They gave money to Hill. That looks like it was a mistake because Thompson in Washington has been producing very, very well. Hill I don't think he was ever really worth a $6 point something million that they gave him. He had a great playoff run, and that's about it, right? But 906 save percentage, 2.47 goals against average. Is that really scream starting goaltender to you? I don't know. Ilya Samsonov is another Hill,
UFA, I believe.
but he's just similar in that sense, like worse than Hill, but still not a great player. So I think their goaltending is kind of hurting here, and it's a lot of money to give Hill. And I get it; he won a Stanley Cup. That's the reason you did that. But I don't know if that was the right move.
I see a lot of similarities to Binnington there, right? They won them a cup, gave him that $6 million contract. But Binnington's been more consistent.
He's been more consistent. Well, now that he seems to have calmed down right, in his old age. But yeah.
Vince, that's pretty much it, or
I they need to shape up that goalie tandem because Samsonov is a UFA, if I'm not mistaken now. So I think that they need to shore up that goaltending.
Look, they're a competitor.
No, for sure.
I mean, let's call the state of a
they're a
franchise the
playoff
way it
team,
is.
and they always tend to make a move in the offseason that just projects them to always be in the conversation of Stanley Cup contenders.
They're all in all the time.
Yeah.
So you got to give a lot of respect to Vegas. Being all in all the time sometimes means that you trade away your prospects that might be very good. For other guys like Barbashev had a great year. You know, there's a lot of good players on this team. I just feel like the retool, because they kind of retooled a little bit last year, and it felt like some of those didn't really hit as well as they should have. Dorofeyev was a big positive for this team.
fair enough. Playoff team, I guess, again next year, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on to another, to the winners of whatever trophy it's called in the Western Conference. The best team in the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets.
Best team in the NHL.
Side note, respect to Mark Scheifele, because I think this is our first pod since he lost his dad in the last game. Respect to Mark Scheifele, who, despite losing his dad in the late hours of the night, came out and played the elimination game and scored. So that was a heartwarming moment. I gained a lot of respect for him with that. And condolences to him and his family on behalf of the Partial Breakaway Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Moving on to the on-ice product, over and underachievers for the Winnipeg Jets here, guys. Things that make you go,
Listen, overachievers, I'll say Nicholas Healer. I think he'll get vastly overpaid for what he brings. 63 points in 69 games this year. We always say contract years, players tend to, go on that run to get the money. But in all his seasons with Winnipeg, his highest point total was 64 points in 82 games. And he only played 82 games 3 times in 10 seasons with Winnipeg. So I think he's going to get... and he wasn't the center of attention on that Winnipeg team. It was Scheifele, it was Connor. Velarde was there too. So I think overachievers, Ehlers, I don't see him repeating these numbers next year with whoever he signs, if it is Winnipeg or not.
63 points in 69 games, only playing 15 minutes, just under 16 minutes a game. That is really impressive. Nick?
Well, I'm going to say Neil Pionk. And I like Neil Pionk. I own Neil Pionk in Lama. I own shares of him. I don't actually own the person. But, I don't want to call him an overachiever. But the 2 years prior to this year, he was pacing for 33 points. And then this year, he was pacing for 46. So his shooting percentage was 8.1. That's the highest he's ever had in his career. It's different for a defenseman, obviously. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not sure if it's repeatable, that point pace again next year. I'd like it to be, because that would really help me. But he just signed a new contract, $7 million for several years moving forward. I like Pionk. There's a little bit of risk that he regresses back to that 33-point player, which makes him a lot less fantasy relevant, even in deep leagues. So that's my overachiever for Winnipeg.
Very well.
And last year, I think we said Hellebuck was the overachiever because there's no way he could repeat what he did, and he actually
And
ended up
he
doing better.
repeated what he
Well, you know
So,
what?
let's go, Pionk.
In the playoffs, Hellebuck was definitely an underachiever, as is the case. Actually, you know what? We can't even say that because he's proven to be pretty crap in the playoffs. So his steady Eddie in the playoffs can be an underachiever if he's always sucked. All right, moving on to the
Doesn't like
players to
Winnipeg
keep
fans.
an eye on for next year. Just because I haven't said much lately, I'm going to start it out with Cole Perfetti. I think Cole Perfetti has an opportunity here to take the next step, especially if they don't re-sign Ehlers. Nick, that's all I'm going to say. I'll let you add more to that.
Well, I was going to say that I traded away Perfetti in Project Llama, so you know he's going to explode, right? That's the way it usually
23
works.
years old. Usually they start like picking it up, right?
Look, I traded him away again because of the fact that he had incredible value, not because I was not happy with him. He ended up having 50 points this year, 50 points in 82 games. He played all 82 games, but that's not what impressed me. What impressed me was coming to the playoffs, he was putting up points in the playoffs. He was playing his heart out in the playoffs, and I thought that he did really well. He's a little bit frustrating, but he's so young still that you kind of expect a little bit of inconsistency in his game. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. Perfetti is somebody that I'm really looking forward to seeing next year, taking another step.
Yeah, I figured you'd say him, so I started with that. Vince, is there a player you want to keep an eye out for?
I'd say Gabriel Velarde if he resigns with Winnipeg. I mean, it's the first year he played over 70 games. He played 71 games, 61 points, 27 goals. I mean, it's not too shabby for a player who in the past years played 10, 54. I mean, his highest point total was 41 points in 63 games. So I think he'll resign with Winnipeg because I think he feels comfortable with the atmosphere there. But he's a player to watch for next year, especially if he can stay healthy.
I think he found a home. In Winnipeg.
A comfortable home.
Yeah, and he's an RFA, I believe. He's not a full...
No, he's an
RFA,
RFA, yeah.
with arbitration, I believe.
Right,
Yes.
so that means that he's probably...
Eligible for an offer sheet.
an offer sheet. But, I mean, Winnipeg has a lot of cap space. So I don't think Winnipeg is worried at all about the possibility of having the offer sheet. And I think we saw it in the projections Excel sheet. That I can't remember. Was it Dauber? Who was it that created that Excel sheet of the projections of all the UFAs and what their next salaries are going to be? But he was projected to be around 7.5 to 8 million moving forward, if I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't it closer to 6.5 and 7? No?
I'll have to check again. But either way, I'm expecting that to be the case, around $7.5 million for him moving forward. So it's going to be interesting to see what he gets. And, hey, guys, would you be opposed to Velarde as a second-line center in Montreal?
I just feel he needs to stay healthy. I mean, we already have Doc who could barely play 30 games.
I don't know if he's a center, though. And
He played better as a wing. I agree with that.
he plays better as a wing, but yeah, I was going to mention in the state of the franchise, but we'll get to it later. I think that's a big need for them. But before we get there, let's look at their pipeline. So this is a team that's losing Ehlers. Perfetti has made the jump. Is there anybody in the pipeline that you guys are looking forward to seeing perhaps make the jump next year? Or maybe it's just someone in the pipeline that we should track because they're trending upwards. Vince, we'll start with you. I think there's a player you really like on this team.
Yeah,
so.
well, a player, I own him. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little worried that he still hasn't made the jump. But it's Brad Lambert. I mean, there's high hopes for this kid coming up. He did not have a good AHL season this year. Not sure what happened there, but he's one that needs to at some point make that jump and stay in that jump and to make sure he's a top 6 and not a bottom 6 on this team. You know, and then they have a younger player in Colby Barlow that. Oh, okay. Well, if they
No.
if you're gonna
Keep
talk
going.
about him, then
I like the fact that you.
Well, is Brad Lambert a center? Because
No, I don't
he
think
might
so.
have an opportunity early. Like he might have that opportunity to be that second line center next year.
I think if he cracks the team and he plays with Velarde, they'll take faceoffs on their strong sides basically. So they'll both. Be
Yeah, I
centers.
see him as a winger as well.
Yeah, I don't see him-
I actually see him a little bit of like a new hook.
Hopefully a bit more offensive for my sake.
I don't think so.
But after that, they have Colby Barlow, who, listen, at the end of the day, he was 18th overall. had a good season in the OHL. But they have another player, which hopefully Nick will talk about, in a trade that they got for
Jaeger bomb.
That's right. So Braden Yager, you know he's going to be a star.
Yeah.
And why do you know it? Well,
Because Nick traded him.
no. Dubas traded him. Dubas traded him away, so you know he's going to be a star. Colby Barlow. I had something set up for there. Braden Yager, I think that's your 2C of the future. And I don't ever see him really becoming a 1C. But second
That's
line
fair.
center, like he's going to take over from Nemesnikov sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's as early as next year, but I really hope it is because if Braden Yager cracks the team next year, that really helps them out in their center depth. And they have a couple of guys that are coming that are being due soon. So
if two of these players can crack the starting lineup, it'll help them also to re-sign Ehlers and Velarde because these two players coming up are coming on contracts of $925,000. So
yeah, I agree with that. I was just seeing so Ehlers is leaving, Appleton, whatever, Tanev. Some of these guys are going to be re-signed, most likely. But then they only have 1 year left of Adam Lowry, 32 years old. You know,
and they need to sign Kyle Connor after next year.
Yeah,
Connor
that's
after
the
next year,
priority.
so that's the priority.
So speaking of Kyle,
these young guys are going to have an opportunity.
yeah. So speaking of Kyle Connor, I mean that's state of the franchise. That's their main priority, right? Is signing Connor to that extension this offseason and filling the void at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, as there's so many teams though out there that are trying to fill that
Right?
number 2 center void.
But aren't we seeing a trend here?
You know, Sam Bennett could only be copied and pasted once or twice.
No number 2 center, no legit shot at the cup. I mean, we saw it
they
with
they won the President's Cup, guys.
no, but like
regular season.
but
Yeah, but
they
still.
do that over and over again, and then they come to the playoffs and they don't have enough. And we saw it with Carolina, no second line center, getting obliterated. You could argue that Washington doesn't have a number 1 center, but let's say it was Dylan Strome, Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? He had a good year. Who else got eliminated there from the Jack Eichel? Who was Tom? Okay, Thomas Hurdle. Vegas is a different story. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of teams that don't have a second line center.
New
that once
Jersey didn't have Jack Hughes,
right? So
so they only had one
Obliterated.
center.
Montreal Canadiens didn't have a number 2 center. Didn't stand a chance against
Yeah,
Washington.
they shouldn't have even been in the playoffs. They fought.
But just
get
to say
there.
that, like, it's,
Give it a
I
go.
think it's an important hole to fill, and that's
Yeah.
why the offseason for Toronto is that much more amplified because that's a very important role for them. That
That was filled very well with Tavares this year.
was filled very well with the Paris this year.
But Winnipeg, the state of the franchise, I think the franchise is in good state. You still have Hellebuck, you still have Scheifele, you still have Connor. So you still have your pillars there with Morrissey also. So I think, and it's just, when are these young guys going to start making their jump? That's what's important.
You need Perfetti to take a step
Yes,
forward.
definitely.
You need Jagger to get into some
Yeah.
games.
You need these lower salaries
you know?
to make a difference on your lineup so that you can pay your big guys with the big salaries.
And the even crucial part for Winnipeg is that they obviously don't attract You can start the outro if you want. They don't attract free agents as well as any other team does, right? So it's really nice that their core guys want to stay, right? Scheifele signed a long extension. Hellebuck signed a long extension. It sounds like Connor wants to stay too. So if they could get these young guys, like you said, Lambert,
You have 3 more
Jaeger,
years of Josh Morrissey at $6 million.
beautiful, man.
You know,
They just need that secondary scoring. They need that depth scoring that we see the Oilers getting now.
yeah.
And they should be in a better spot. Maybe some better goaltending in the playoffs, but
You had to throw that one in, huh?
Keep going.
no. But I keep throwing it because people just keep, it's the truth. Facts are facts, right? I would take him on my team any day of the week, but the reality is in the playoffs, he's not quite himself.
Well, Thomas Milic is coming up soon, so
Well, guys, if you want to hate, follow us on social at Partial Break Pod, Instagram, X, TikTok. Like and subscribe on YouTube. And that's it.
DraftKings, baby. Jackson Blake and
Taylor
Taylor
Hall
Hall, ladies
score
and
a goal
gentlemen.
in game. By the way, that's Vince's pick. So if that doesn't
if
come
it's
through,
wrong, it's Vince's fault.
plus 2,100. Put
Have a
$10
good week,
with
everybody.
$220, my friends.